Pregnant at 13 with England's future king. The tragic story of Lady Margaret Beaufort. The Tudor name instantly conjures images of Elizabeth I's commanding presence, Henry VIII's notorious court, or the cunning of Thomas Cromwell, especially after the success of Wolf Hall. But behind these towering figures stands a lesser-known shadow, Lady Margaret Beaufort. She was not only the mother of the first Tudor king, Henry VII, but the woman who navigated herself and her son through the stormy seas of the Wars of the Roses, shaking the very foundations of the English crown. Margaret was born on May 31, 1443, in Bletsoe, Bedfordshire. Her father, John Beaufort, Duke of Somerset, died only a year later under mysterious circumstances, widely suspected to be suicide, a sin that stained the family's honor. At just 1 year old, Margaret became a wealthy heiress and an irresistible prize for men hungry for power and fortune. Her childhood, though brief, was unusually peaceful for the time. Raised directly by her mother, Margaret Beauchamp, Duchess of Somerset, a rarity in the 15th century, she grew up among half-siblings with whom she formed lifelong bonds. Officially, King Henry VI appointed two powerful guardians for her. First, the Earl William de la Pole, then the Duke of Suffolk. In reality, her mother's influence dominated her upbringing. Proud of her daughter's intellect, the Duchess ensured she was well-educated and fluent in French, a rare and valuable skill that would later feed Margaret's passion for translation. But in 1455, the death of the Duke of Suffolk brought a fateful turn. The king transferred Margaret's wardship to his half-brothers, Edmund and Owen Tudor. At just 12 years old, she was married to Edmund, her guardian, and now her husband. In the 15th century, a girl of 12 could legally marry, but consummation at such a young age was socially discouraged. As historian Dr. Elizabeth Norton explains in her biography Margaret Beaufort, it was perfectly acceptable to marry a child in the 15th century, but you didn't have sex with them while they were still a child. Edmund Tudor ignored both custom and conscience. That year, Margaret, still a child, was forced into pregnancy, and from this moment, her life swerved into tragedy. She would bear the future King of England at the age of just 13. 1456 to 1457. The winter birth, winter winds screamed against the grey stone of Pembroke Castle. News arrived like an axe blow. Edmund Tudor had been captured at Carmarthen Castle, stricken with plague, and was dead. Less than a year before, he had taken Margaret as his bride. Now he left her a widow, heavily pregnant, and stranded in a cold, hostile Wales. Her only protector was Jasper Tudor, Edmund's younger brother. He stood guard over her, but no one could shield her from the agony to come. In January 1457, under a leaden sky, her labor began. No mother at her side, no skilled physicians, only a handful of attendants, and the howl of the wind through the shutters. Margaret, small, frail, her body not yet fully matured, fought through a childbirth that could easily have killed her. Then, at last, the newborn's cry pierced the silence. Henry Tudor had entered the world, red, fragile, but carrying royal blood that would one day topple a dynasty. For Margaret, it was nothing short of a miracle. She believed God had spared both their lives for a purpose, and at that moment, she made a silent vow. She would see her son crowned King of England, no matter the cost. But miracles demand payment. The birth left her with lasting injuries that would prevent her from ever conceiving again. At just 13 years old, she had survived a forced marriage, widowhood, and a life-threatening labor. 1457 to 1458. From pawn to player recovery was short-lived. Margaret now faced the brutal reality. She was a teenage widow, immensely wealthy, and the mother of a boy whose bloodline made him a threat to the throne. In the ruthless world of the 15th century, that meant every powerful man had a reason to control her, or destroy her. Margaret, however, refused to be led like a lamb. While most women of her time waited for their fate to be decided, she made a daring move. She would choose her own husband. Such an act was almost unheard of. Her choice fell on Henry Stafford, the second son of the Duke of Buckingham. As a second son, Stafford would never inherit his father's title, but he held valuable connections in noble circles. To Margaret, he was ideal, strong enough to protect her and Henry, yet not so powerful as to dominate her life. Their marriage in 1458, she was 15. He was 20 years her senior, was not only strategic, but surprisingly affectionate. Records suggest Stafford treated her kindly, and her in-laws favored her enough to name her in both their wills. Rare for a daughter-in-law with no direct inheritance claims. Still, Margaret never let her guard drop. She 1483 to 1485. The final gamble. By 1483, England was once again in chaos. Edward IV was dead. His young son proclaimed Edward V, but the boy never wore the crown. Instead, his uncle seized power, declaring himself Richard III. Whispers spread through the court. The princes in the Tower had vanished. Many believed they had been murdered on Richard's orders. For Margaret Beaufort, this was both danger and opportunity. Her son Henry Tudor was still in exile in Brittany, but Richard's ruthless seizure of the throne opened a path. If she could unite Lancaster's loyalists with disillusioned Yorkists, she could put Henry on the throne. The most shocking alliance she forged was with Elizabeth Woodville, the widowed queen of Edward IV, and Richard III's bitter enemy. Together, they plotted a marriage between Henry Tudor and Elizabeth of York, uniting the warring houses and promising peace. But Richard III was not blind. He stripped Margaret of her titles, placed her under house arrest in the custody of her husband, Lord Stanley. What Richard failed to realize was that Stanley's loyalty was flexible. While publicly serving the king, he quietly kept channels open to Margaret. For 2 years, Margaret's life was a high-wire act. Every letter, every whisper a potential death sentence. In August 1485, her gamble reached its endgame. Henry Tudor landed in Wales with an army. Lord Stanley, still officially Richard's man, delayed choosing a side until the morning of the Battle of Bosworth Field. In the chaos of the fighting, Stanley's forces turned against Richard. The king charged directly into battle, determined to cut down Henry himself, and was surrounded, unhorsed, and killed. The crown was found in the mud and placed on Henry's head. Margaret Beaufort's son was now King Henry VII of England. She, the girl who had been a child bride, raped, widowed, scarred by childbirth at 13, had outmaneuvered kings and killers to see her son take the throne. From that day forward, she styled herself Margaret R., the king's mother, a title she wielded with almost royal authority. She would never again be powerless. And the Tudor dynasty, born from her pain and persistence, would rule England for more than a century.